Before we get into trapper knives, I would like to talk about blade shapes and designs for just a moment. It is relevant to the video, I assure you. Among the earliest of tools that humankind developed was a blade. As soon as someone realized they could chip certain types of rocks into having sharp edges, everyone began making knives. Handles became longer for those knives, and the spear was born. Then when mankind began working with metals such as bronze, spears were still important and they retained that same basic shape and design. Centuries later, when the pocket knife was born, it was only natural that some blades would retain that same design. Okay, so drawing on the inspiration of those early spear blades, and yes, pun intended, I'm going to draw out real quick a reference line here as a guide. It's not exactly centered, but it's close enough you'll get the idea. So if we were to draw a blade, and we'll start right here at the center line, and we'll make it somewhat symmetrical, assuming that I can draw a symmetrical line. Okay, and we'll come down here and draw a tang on it. Whoa, that is terrible. Yep. Put the center hole here. We'll have the name of the manufacturer right there. We'll draw a nail nick. And I tell you what, I will draw the sharpened edge here. I'll kind of outline that in blue so you can see where the sharpened edge would be ground on this knife. So you see, since the early spears and all, and knives, swords, many things were drawn off the inspiration of those early flint spears as far as the shape and the design. When they began making pocket knives, it was just normal to do the same thing. And so when you have a knife with symmetrical blade, it is called a spear point blade. Now, a lot of companies still make that, but it was especially common in older knives. Camper style knives, I believe, still tend to have those. Many of your Victorinox knives are still a spear point blade. So it's a very popular design. It lends a lot of strength. One of the drawbacks of the spear point blade is you don't have much of a tip. It's got a tip and it's usable, but if you need a real sharp, pointy tip, it just doesn't do a lot of good. So rather than redesigning the whole blade, what's very easy to do is start right there at that point. See, we're not gonna change where that point is. All we're gonna do is take a spear point blade and we're gonna grind away a little half moon shape here. Grind or clip away that shape, which now makes this a clip point blade. That's the reason that we call that style blade a clip point blade, because it was basically drew its inspiration from a symmetrical spear point blade, and then you clip away part of it here. Not only does that remove a little bit of weight from the blade, but most importantly, it gives you that sharp, pointy tip that is good for piercing. Whether you're trying to open a package, whether you're trying to dig a splinter out of your skin, whether you're trying to do any number of jobs, the spear point blade is great, but that clip point blade has become very popular. It is probably the most popular blade design in most years since it came out, because it's just so useful. You have all the benefits, most of the strength of a spear point blade, the big cutting edge of the spear point blade, but you also get that sharp, pointy tip. And it's, let's face it, this whole point of a knife is to pierce and cut. All right, so here we are with our reference line restored. We're going to talk about another blade shape now. This is another old one, and it pertains to trappers in particular, as well as some other blades. This one, I'm going to draw the spine of the blade here. I'm going to draw this rather long. And coming out to this point, we have a little bevel there that's not sharpened. Then from there, that's where our blade part begins, or the sharp edge begins. We'll come straight down. All right. See if I can do a little better on a tang this time. Not much. Name, because we stamped the name there. And if I can quit moving the board around, we'll put our nail nick right about there. As I said, our sharpened edge will go from here all the way down. Okay. Now this is a blade that's designed to not have a very sharp pointy tip. That's the whole purpose of this one. What you do is you get a long cutting edge, and it's designed for cutting flesh. This is called a Spay blade. Spay blade. Again, very popular design on knives. It began, just as the name suggests, as a blade designed for the castration of animals. Very gross to think about, I know, but that's what it was designed for. You wanted something without a sharp piercing tip so you don't accidentally puncture where you don't want to, but just for the cutting edge. There are many knives, older knives especially, that the blade would be marked somewhere on the tang for flesh only, or they might shorten it to just flesh only, because that's what it's designed to do. It's just for cutting flesh. Now, one of the things we discovered early on is it not only is good for that intended purposes of the spaying of animals, but it's also very good for hunters and trappers when it comes to skinning animals. So the old game trappers who used to hunt animals, and they would skin them out. That's how they made their living, selling those animal skins. The Spay blade was very good for that because, again, it doesn't puncture where you don't want it to. It's just for cutting. And I think that's one of the reasons that the clip point and the Spay blade come on a trapper traditionally. So we'll get into that and talk about the trapper knives now. All right, so let's talk about trappers for a minute. What makes a knife a trapper? Well, as you can see here, the trapper knife has one end is larger, one end is smaller, so it's an unequal end. It is usually curved toward the back end or somewhat serpentine shaped. And traditionally, a trapper will have two blades. Some are one blades, but traditionally there'll be two blades. We have the clip point blade and the Spay blade, which is why we just detailed those two blades a moment ago. So that is your classic trapper design. I've got quite a few of them, and we'll go through just a few here. There are a lot of different brands. Here is a mini trapper, 6207. Both of these are by Case, and these are very popular. I think one of the reasons I've always liked a trapper design is that's typically what my dad carries. He's got a lot of knives. He probably owns more knives than me, but if you check his pockets on any given day, he probably has a trapper with him. Here is a Schrade that I rehandled. Here in a minute, I will show you a picture of that one, kind of before and after. Got some gunk on the blades. I carry this one occasionally, and I should have cleaned it before I put it in this video. But this one has new blades and new handles. So basically the springs and the liners and the bolsters are the only thing that's original in this one. That was a fun little project. That was before I began videotaping these. And here is the before picture of that Schrade trapper. Here was originally Schrade 194 OT. That is a single blade trapper. You see, it does not have the Spay blade. Now, this one has had a new blade put in it, which is carbon steel. It's already begun to rust in a few spots. I need to put a good patina on it. They normally had a liner lock, so the blade would lock. I took the liner lock out when I redid this one. As well, this one was missing one bolster, and I made that bolster for it. But other than that, that one is, well, I started to say it's like it left the factory, but I guess I changed a lot of things on it. So I added a bolster, removed the liner lock, and replaced the blade. But you can see all of these have that classic trapper shape, classic trapper design. And they were made by a lot of different companies. So here, I'll just kind of show you my collection, and I'll talk about a few of them. Here you see the Case. There are a couple of Schrades. I have one here that is a custom. This was made by Mr. J. Bigler. He was a knife maker from Illinois, passed away several years ago. His daughter has sold part of his collection just because I think they had well over 100 knives there. And as far as I know, I got the only one that was a two blade. Most of his knife creations were single blades. I really enjoy this one. I will show you a close-up of it in a little bit. But yeah, very, very nice creation by Mr. J. Bigler. And that one takes a prominent place in my collection. I got a couple here by More Maker. Now these say More Maker. They were made by Bear and Son out of Jacksonville, Alabama. So I have a hometown connection. This is a cute one here. Of course, I have oil on the blades. These are carbon steel blades. I'm trying to keep those from rusting up. But you can see we have two different colors of handle material. Red on one side, black on the other. I had picked up a couple of those. They were designed that way. So here's another one I got from them, a More Maker, that was made by Bear and Son for them by contract. That's a nice full-size trapper. I plan on doing a little work on that just for fun. Hopefully that'll make it into a video soon. Got one here that is a buck. Now this one is worn out. The clip blade is. The Spay blade, it looks fine. It was not used very much. The shield was missing. I put another shield in it. It doesn't really match. That's not the buck type shield. I could have sent it into buck and had it repaired. I have to say, I've only sent in a couple of different knives, but Buck has one of the best warranties in the business if it's a Buck USA knife. They are really, really great, pleasant to work with, very, very good people. Here is a Western Coleman. This is after the Western Company sold out to Coleman, and I think after that they sold to Camillus, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me on it. But this one is very cheaply made with plastic handles, half springs, one steel liner in the middle, and with stainless blades. But I got it just to have a representation of that. I kind of like the Western knives. The old ones were really, really great, and that's a fun little knife to carry around. Very lightweight in the pocket. This is one that's by Frost Cutlery. It is an import, which I don't typically buy import knives, but this is a Halloween knife. I got it for my wife because she likes Halloween. It's a fun time of the year for her. She used to love having the kids dress up, and Halloween was a fun time. We don't get into the creepy stuff with it, but we do like to see the little ones have fun. But this one is, you see, a classic trapper design, a little more accentuated on the bowing up of the large end there. And the Spay blade is a bit oversized. So strange contours on these blades, but it's still a fun little knife. And it was worth the few dollars that I paid for it. So you see, I love trapper knives. One of my favorite designs. This one especially is among my favorite knives because my dad gave this to me. In fact, both of these case knives were gifts from him. This one was just a few years ago, but this one is a 1974, because it has the 6 dots on it. He gave this to me either in the late 70s or early 80s. I forget exactly what year it was, but my dad had 2 of these. He had this one that was a 1974, and then he had a 1975 that was identical to it, except it had lighter colored handles and it had stainless steel blades. And he offered the 2 of them to my brother and I. Even at the time, I didn't know much about blade steels or anything else, but I liked the carbon steel blades. Something about the stainless blades being so shiny, I don't know, I didn't like them as much. My brother did, so he chose the stainless and I chose the carbon one. As I said, while my brother and I are 3 years apart in age, this knife and his are only 1 year apart, but we both still have those knives. They're very dear to us. Our father is still with us. So we have those pleasant memories of him giving us those knives. And this one will always be special to me. I didn't always take care of it exceptionally well. I've got a few marks here where it looks like I hammered something with it. I'm very glad I did not splinter up the bone on it, but I did put some dents in the liners. I'm leaving those just as it is. I carried this knife quite a lot for many years, so there's a little bit of blade wear on it from sharpening it. Not incredibly bad, but still got great snap after all these years, even though I did not know to oil a knife when I was younger. I definitely oil them a lot now and try to keep them in good shape. This one has a lot of good honest patina, and yeah, I love that knife. I don't carry it much anymore. I need to put it back into my rotation because it is a very good knife. So now we'll begin talking about some variations of the trapper design. Okay, so when it comes to variations on the trappers, there are quite a few. Now, of course, we've already noted the main size, normal. I don't know if there's an actual, length that is acceptable for a trapper, but there's a normal size and the mini. I one time had an even smaller one that I got. It was a Bear MCG cutlery. It was much smaller than the mini trapper, so I called it a micro trapper. Had it for a while and sold it, but it was a nice knife. Now here's one that I want to share with you, and it's going to look a little goofy. I have put some painter's tape over the handles because this is a knife I just rehandled recently. I've made a video on it, but I've not yet finished editing that video, so I want the handle material to be a surprise. But this was a fun little knife. It is also a Moore maker, and this one is designed to be a horseman's knife, or horseman's trapper, I would say. It has the main clip blade that is identical to the one that's in this knife, same frame, but this one has a hoof pick. That's for a horse's hoof, to get out stones or things that might hurt the horse. And then, of course, I rehandled this one. It used to be in yellow plastic. I love a yellow handled knife, but still putting new handles on that one has been very fun. And while it may look a little silly to have it taped up, I do want that to be a surprise. Then we have what I think of as a variation of a trapper, but some people don't, and that's okay. As I said, the trapper is going to have this similar design, being wide at the back end, small at the head end. Two blades pivot on the same side. Now here is a buck. As you can see, it is a little different. The frame is more like a Stockman frame. It's a little different from this buck, but they're both Buck USA. And this one has the clip point blade and the Spay blade, but they are pivot on different ends. So some people think of this as a variation of a trapper. Some people claim it is not. I'm not trying to start controversy. I'm just showing you these knives, and rather than give them their own category, I'm lumping these in with trappers. If you think of them as a different knife, that's fine. This pattern is called a moose pattern when it has the clip blade and the Spay blade, just like a trapper, but they're on opposite ends. That is known as a moose pattern knife. There are variations of this as well. Here is a Bear MCG that was a predecessor to Bear & Son. And that's a lovely little knife, but it's two clip point blades. Now, a lot of companies make these and have made them in the past, but when it has the two clip point blades on opposite ends, again, more of a Stockman style frame, but that was still favored by a lot of trappers, just as the trapper style knife was. But this is called a muskrat pattern. I think it's because muskrat trappers preferred those, or some of them did, or perhaps that was just a fun way to give them a name. I don't know, but a lot of companies have made those. Here's a Camillus. This one is the Yellow Jacket, although the frame is shaped even differently on this one. You'll see this is more of a sway-backed, equal end frame, almost a Congress frame. And Congress knives are something we haven't covered yet, but has the Yellow Jacket brand on it. This main is, I started to say it was stamped Camillus, but it is not. In fact, neither of the blades are. Oh, here it is on the back. I knew it said Camillus somewhere. It has the Camillus etch along the back springs. So this is Camillus USA and their Yellow Jacket line of knives. So there's another muskrat. And again, the variation in that is just the handle design. And here's one by Uncle Henry, or by Schrade, that is a variation of the muskrat design, which again, I think of as a variation of a trapper, whether you do or don't. I'm not here to argue it. We're just showing knives. But that's a real fun knife. You have the clip point blade, and you have one with a gut hook, which again is for skinning animals. So that's why that is kind of a variation of the muskrat design. So here is part of my collection. I have some others, but these are all, in my mind at least, part of the trapper family. These are definitely trappers with a couple of variations: single blade, mini trappers, hoof pick, horseman's trapper, and then the muskrat and moose patterns that, again, may not fit that bill for you, but to me, I kind of classify them in together, and that's better than making a separate video for them. Here are a few other trapper knives that I used to own. This is the Bear & Son 3-inch micro trapper, I call it. Then I have a Moore Maker 2206 jumbo trapper. It's larger in real life than it looks in this picture. Another huge one is this 3206 DLB by Moormaker. It's a double lockback trapper. Then there's this Moormaker 5160 LLB, which is a single-bladed mini trapper with a liner lock. And lastly, I have the before and after pictures of a Western trapper that I rehandled in elk antler. I hope that you all have enjoyed this video. Thank you all, and may God bless you.